guys, my name's Seb. I run an automation agency called SavvyFlow. We've closed clients with companies worth anywhere from 6 all the way to 8 figures. And in this video, I'm going to show you a version of the type of automated invoicing system through Stripe that I would use to send invoices to these customers. If that sounds like something you'll be interested in, then be sure to stick around. So what you're looking at here is the end result of what we're going to be building out today. It is an n8n workflow. This is end to end. First off, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be watching a ClickUp status, and I'm actually going to run this so you guys can get a full demo. So right now this is running, it's watching for a ClickUp status to change to send invoice here. So I'm going to change this interested guy, this Seb example lead, to send invoice. And now if we head back in here, the automation is already running. And if we head into Stripe, there'll be a new customer called Seb. This is all in test mode, so I won't actually receive an email for the invoice at my email address that I'll put in here, just because I'm using the test Stripe API key. But here you can see the customer's been created, an invoice here has been created for €1,000. We can confirm that's correct by heading back in here, checking Seb, and their project cost here is indeed €1,000. So if we click on in here, we can see the full invoice, edit invoice, and then we can see the entire invoice has been created with descriptions, with prices and everything in there, which is pretty cool. And then finally at the end, you can notify yourself or one of your team members that an invoice has been sent, and you can also see the task there in ClickUp. This exact system works whether you use ClickUp, Monday, or HubSpot, whatever you use, you can plug it on into there. So let's build this thing out. First off, what you're going to want to do, if you haven't already, is create some lead pipeline. I've created a very basic one. It took me like 5 minutes to create, where the most important parts are the status and project cost, so that the automation knows when it should run and how much to charge that customer. So I've added a project cost, status, and also email. It's important to put an email in there. So I'm going to put the same email in for each address. Let me just do that very quickly. I'm going to use this one. And then just put that in there. And the automation will use this email each time, or whatever email is in there. So first off, what we're going to want to do is, once you've set up that CRM pipeline, you want to connect to ClickUp. And then click on here, and then we'll do on status. We search for on status, on task status updated. That's the one we're looking for. You'll need to connect to a ClickUp account. You'll just go here, and then I can run through the process. You have to click connect, and then you have to select the workflow or workspace, and then just connect it. Takes 5 seconds. That's all you need to do. And this will close. There we go. And then you need to select the space name. I'm going to choose this one, and then under events, it should automatically be task status updated, but if it isn't, then make sure you've selected that. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to head back into ClickUp, because what I want to do is select the folder ID. Actually, I should only be able to select the list ID. I want to find the list ID. And the way you find that is by heading down to your list. So you can see here in ClickUp we have example sales, CRM, and then leads. To find the list ID, you can click on these 3 dots here, go copy link. So for reference, example sales is a space, CRM is a folder, and then this lead section is a list in ClickUp. So again, what we do, 3 dots, copy link, and then you can paste that link into a new tab. This end ID here is the list ID. So if you just copy that over into this list ID, now what's happening is this webhook will only watch for changed statuses in this list here. And we can confirm that by running this. And let's just change a random status, meeting booked. And this should run. There we go. And we can see, confirm everything's correct. It's saying that, where's the meeting booked status before was interested, now it's meeting booked. That is correct. So now what we can do is, what I'm going to do is add an if statement. And this if is basically going to say if the after status is equal to send invoice, because I only want to send an invoice if will this be correct? I only want to send an invoice to a customer if their status is send invoice, right? So it might all be lowercase like that, send invoice. So now I'm going to double check that this is correct. I'm going to change this to send invoice. That is true. So that's cool. Let's just rename this status equals send invoice. Oh, send invoice. Cool. And now once it's true, what we can do is I'm going to get that task from ClickUp. So this will basically get all of that leads or all of that task's information. So within ClickUp, it'll get all of this information from, for example, if Bob's status changed to send invoice, now it will get all of Bob's information within this task. It will get all of the information that has been put here. So let's go get a task, get task ID, and then within this ClickUp trigger, we should be able to find the task ID. Yep, down the bottom here. Drag and drop the task ID there, and now we'll be able to get all of the information. Also, so I don't have to always be changing the statuses of the tasks in ClickUp, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pin this data so I can use it over and over and over again, just while testing. So here, let's see if it's got all the information. It should have got the name and everything now. It's got the email. So I've got all this data now that we can use to create the invoice, which is great. So the next thing we want to do is head over to Stripe and go create a customer and click on that. You'll need to connect your Stripe account. How you do that, you just go on here and you need to get a secret key. n8n outlines it pretty well. What I've done is I've set up a test mode secret key, and then you just click on API keys there and you'll have your secret key literally right there for you to copy and paste into this field in the Stripe node. And now what we're going to do, once you've connected your account, make sure operation is create, and the name, we should be able to extract the name here from this get ClickUp task. The name is right there, drag and drop. And there we go. Is there anything else we want? Email, definitely something we want. So now let's find their email address. We go through the ClickUp task, email's right here, drag and drop. And then there's other things you can add as well, phone, shipping, description, address. I'm just going to leave it with the email and name for now. Now what I'm going to do is, this is where we start creating the invoice. Unfortunately, n8n doesn't have a built-in node to create invoices and send them. So we have to do this through an HTTP request. So if you search an HTTP and then add the HTTP node, HTTP. And now what we need to do is head over to the Stripe. What I'll send to make it easier is send invoice through Stripe API. Send invoice for manual payment, and then we'll go into the Stripe API. And I actually want to create an invoice first. So if you go down to create or find create invoice, what we want to do is copy over this URL here, and then paste this into this HTTP request. Make sure the method is post. And then what you can do is make the authentication predefined credential type, and then search in Stripe here, and you can connect automatically to Stripe. And everything here, I believe, is in query parameters. So let's add a query parameter and see what we need. So what we're going to do is do the collection method to send an invoice. This will allow us to send the invoice manually rather than Stripe sending it automatically. If you want to charge to the customer automatically, instead of adding send invoice here into this value, like I'm going to do right now, you could add charge automatically. Now what we need is the customer ID so that Stripe knows what customer we want to charge. Customer should be here. Let's run this to get the customer ID. I'm going to run this again just so I can get this customer ID here. Right, the first field there is the customer ID. So let's drag it and drop that in there. Now what else do we need? Description. I think that could be good. Description is like the description or the name of what you are selling within the invoice. So I'm sure. We'll actually have to double check that. Thanks for working with SavvyFlow. Subscription. I believe this is all we need. Currency. I might leave that for now. Due date. I'm going to add a due date. And there's something interesting about the due date. Through the Stripe API, they use something where you have to format the date, and I've got it written down here. It's something called Unix Epoch. So if we go, what is Unix Epoch? Unix Epoch is something that started in 1st of January 1970. And basically how Stripe measures time through the API is the amount of time in seconds that has passed from the 1st of January 1970 till now. Like what's the date today? Till the 16th of April 2025. It measures how long and how much time has passed in seconds since 1st of January 1970. So it seems like a bit of a strange way to measure time, but in order to create a due date through the API, you have to measure the amount of time it's been since 1970 to now, and then what I'm going to do is add 7 days to today, so that will end up being the 22nd of April. But then I have to add this additional 7 days in seconds. So I hope this makes a bit more sense as I run it through with you guys and kind of show you what is actually happening and what the values look like. But the way you calculate this is by going in here, expression, 2 curly braces, $, today. Let's select today, and then dot 2 seconds. So it's not too hard to calculate because here we have the value. Today dot 2 seconds. This automatically calculates the time in seconds it has been since the 1st of January 1960. And so this time is called Unix timestamp, I believe it's called. Unix timestamp. Yeah, it's called Unix timestamp. So this value here is a Unix timestamp. time in seconds that has passed between right now and 1970. But now what we want to do to add a due date, because we don't want the due date to be today, I want the due date to be in 7 days. So now I have to calculate what is 7 days in seconds. Well, 7 days in seconds is 604,800. 7 days in seconds. 604,800. Yeah. So now I have to add 604,800 seconds, i.e. 7 days, to this value, which is a time between 1970 and today, so that I can get a due date for the 22nd of April. And we'll see that when we create the invoice, we'll see the 22nd of April. So it's a bit weird. I don't know why they do it, as opposed to just normal readable dates like today. Like you can see here today. If you just did today, that's what the date looks like there, this bottom line. But no, we have to measure the time in seconds since 1970. And I don't know why. But anyway, back to creating the invoice. Is there any other fields we might need? Got the customer ID, description, due date. Let's look. Footer, you can add a footer if you want. Let's add that, why not? Footer. This is the very cool footer. What else is there? From invoice, behalf of. So just kind of filtering through this API documentation. Currency. I might have to add. Might add the currency later, but we'll leave it for now. So now I'm going to test this to make sure it successfully creates an invoice. Let's run this. Let's head into Stripe. Head back out into invoices. Here's another one for $0. So we haven't added any money to the invoice yet. So let's go edit draft. There's the footer we added. And the description. The description goes there. Thanks for working with SavvyFlow. The footer, this is a very cool footer. Now what we need to do is add an item, be able to add an item to this. And that seems to be the last thing. Let's head back in here. So if we rename this create invoice, create customer, and now we need to create an invoice item. An invoice item is just like if we hit in here, edit draft. Invoice item is just an item you would add here. Add new line item. We can just do this programmatically and automatically create that item. So if we go in here, head down to invoice items, and then the invoice, create an invoice item. Now what we need is customer ID. So let's first copy over the request URL right here. Put that in here. Post method again. Let's go send query parameters and be sure to change the authentication to Stripe. And now in here, let's copy over these parameters, customer, and map over the customer ID. This is not the customer ID. If we zoom in here, this is the invoice ID. You can see it's the invoice ID because there's IN at the start. If we go down, customer ID has cus at the start. So we know that's the customer ID. Drag and drop that in here. Can I just tell which item to use? which item to use. I'm not sure why it does this. I'm going to do last though. We'll change that to last. If this doesn't work for you, then just change it to last and it will resolve the issue. I'm not sure why that's happening. Last just basically means to select the last object in this that has been passed through this create customer node. Okay, now what else do we need? The amount we want to charge. So also another interesting thing with the amount is they charge the amount in cents rather than dollars. So what we're going to do is we'll head down to the ClickUp task and then look for the amount that we wanted to charge within the ClickUp task. So if we go down here, currency type, value, right here, the amount we want to charge 1500. And then what we want to do, I'll do last again here. Do value and then after, if we zoom in here, go multiplied by 100. Because otherwise, what will appear here, if it's just 1500, 1500, in ClickUp, which does appear to be $1,500, in the invoice, it'll appear as $1.50 because it measures in cents. So by multiplying by 100, that 1500 is like saying $1.50 times 100, which is 1500. And that's just because Stripe through the API calculates dollars or money values as cents. And then also I added the last here instead of item. By default it was item. I'm not sure why it's saying can't determine which item to use, because I would have thought there was only one in there, but I'll just do last. This just means, again, to select the last item that's been processed for that specific item, if that makes sense. Create item invoice. Let's see if there's anything else we need. Invoice amount and description. This is the description for what you're charging. Thanks for building the coolest automation with SavvyFlow. And that should be okay. Now let's run this again. See if now, when we head back into here, an amount gets added. Doesn't look like an amount got added there. Maybe, let me refresh. Let's go edit draft. Maybe I'm calling the wrong API endpoint. Maybe I need to write create an invoice line item. Amount. No, let's go back to here. What do we here? Create invoice item. Let's add currency. Oh, it didn't work. Yeah, we need to add currency. So never mind, just this. Nothing big, and then we add the currency. We should be able to find the currency of the customer within the Stripe. One of those Stripe nodes. Yeah, currency. When we use the create invoice node, it returns a currency, and we'll just dynamically put that currency in there. Now let's see if this works. So it all worked. Now fingers crossed we have a dollar amount on there, or euro amount. Still no euro amount. The due date is correct, 22 April. We got the footer and memo. But no amount. Customer amount description. I actually don't know. Let's head back into here. Not sure what amount. Okay. Had to cheat a little bit there, but what was it? Invoice. We need to specify the invoice we want to add the item to. So that's where we write invoice and then take the invoice ID. Again, we can see that by seeing the IN. Drag and drop that in here. And now if we run it, it should work. Let's hit in here, go back into invoices, and there we go, 1500. And then we can make sure everything's correct in here, but we've seen everything's correct and the dollar signs there, the amount we want to charge is there, which is the same. Ross, if we go on here, how much do we want to charge Ross? 1500. So that's all good. Now the next thing we want to do, now that the entire invoice has been created, is actually sending the invoice. We also cannot do this with a built-in node in n8n, which is again a bit unfortunate, so we have to use another invoice HTTP node. So we're going to do send invoice. And now what we need to do, method will be post again. And if we go here, we need to find where send in invoices. So if we go under invoices, search send an invoice for manual payment, and then we'll be able to copy over this URL, paste it into here, and then we'll need to change this invoice ID here with the actual invoice ID. So let's make that an expression and drag and drop the invoice ID. This time we can see we're dragging in the right ID by making sure this is II, invoice ID. And then authentication, predefined credential type, select, search in Stripe. There we go. And I believe this is all we'll need to do. Yeah. And now let's go into here. Oh, there's an error. No. Now let's make sure this is all correct. The resource agreement could not be found. No, it's not this. I take that back. We're not referencing the invoice item. We want to use this invoice ID. Not invoice item, the invoice itself. So this ID from create an invoice. Drag and drop that in there. Oops. Now it should be sent. We won't actually see it in my inbox here, just because I'm doing this in test mode. As you can see, test data, everything's in test mode. So if I refresh this, it should say open now, I believe. Yeah, open. So that just means it's been sent automatically, which is cool. Again, I won't see it because I'm using all of the test API endpoints within Stripe, so this isn't live within my actual live Stripe account, because I don't want to mess around with that. But when you click test mode in here, you can enter test mode in Stripe. So yeah, there is the invoice completely finished now, which is pretty cool. All of this from just a change in a status in ClickUp so far And the last thing I want to do is send an email to myself once this process is finished, and so I can get notified once an email has been sent. Gmail account, I want to send it to, if we go back to the ClickUp node, I want to send it to the email that's in this ClickUp task. I don't believe it's under creator. Custom fields here. And then the email custom field value Seb. And here, new invoice. Yay. New invoice has been sent. I make this text. Hi Seb. Can I not? Okay, I'll make this a screen. Hi Seb, congrats. You have sent a new invoice to, let's grab the task name. Where's the task name? To name here, to Ross. Task. View the task. View the task or the lead in ClickUp. How I'm going to do this is I'm actually going to head into ClickUp, click on a task. So it looks like this, and then I'm going to copy the URL, paste the URL in here, and then just delete the task ID, which is everything after the /t/. And then I'm going to find the task ID within this ClickUp response. I believe it's all the way at the bottom. Okay, we won't look in this ClickUp, we'll look at the very first node. And here we go, we can see task ID right there. Let's drag and drop that to the end of this. And there we have a link to the task ID, or the task ID, the task that has been, or the lead that has been changed within ClickUp. So send email to you/team. And let's run this now. Let's make sure we get an invoice, or not an invoice, an email. Yay, new invoice has been sent. Hi, congrats, you've sent a new invoice to Ross. View the task. Let's make sure this link works. And there we go, the link directly to your ClickUp task with all of the information right here. Also, let's remove this. I always forget to remove this until the email has been sent. The way we remove this n8n attribution, this n8n kind of signature from the bottom of the email, click on the Gmail node itself, go down to add option, append n8n attribution, and turn that off. What I'm also going to do is make sure that this send invoice, another one has been sent. Let's refresh this. And then you can see another one's been sent. Now I think the final thing I'm going to do is run through it without this pin data to make sure that everything is working as expected. Let's run this. Let's go back. Oops. Let's change Max. Now we want to send an invoice to Max for $1,000. It's already done. Let's look in Stripe, refresh. A new €1,000 invoice has been created. And here, refresh. And there's no n8n attribution, the task name, Max. One thing I've just thought of is this is dollars. and this is euro. Maybe if you want your currency to change, maybe if you want your currency to change, I'm not sure how you'd do that. I was thinking there'll probably be some way you can do it, but if you wanted your currency within Stripe, the Stripe invoice to be the same as in ClickUp, I'm sure there'd be a way to do that, but it didn't seem I could just do it within here. I can only add address and description and kind of basic information. Maybe if I create an invoice, because you have to do it upon creating the customer, because if I change this currency and change it to USD, this node will get an error saying there's a mismatch in currency IDs, or whatever you call the small abbreviations for currencies like USD and Euro. And yeah, this is a very basic but very useful automation that a version of it that I've kind of used within my business at SavvyFlow. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It was pretty fun built it out with you guys step by step, and yeah, looking forward to the next one.